Good evening, guys. Good afternoon for you guys that are overseas as well. So we are on the last episode of Chapter 6, Part 3 of Chapter 6, the last part. My name is Joe Barron, and just like you guys, I was someone that has always wondered, why do I have doubts? Why do I have fears? What's preventing me from being successful or being happy in my life? And so those questions that arose because of that has led me to learn a couple of things that I now share with you guys on Facebook under the 7 pillars of transformation. 7 pillars of transformation is a concept that I created a couple of months ago as I was working on a sermon, and the feedback that I got from the congregation was pretty massive, pretty positive. And so therefore, I've always wanted to be someone that taught or provided content for you guys. And so here I am. Again, my name is Joe Barone, and we've been studying fear for about a couple of months already. And we're pretty much going through the whole book. There's a couple of more chapters left before the book is over. So if there's any other material out there that you're interested in learning, I've been learning quite a bit about management, about corporate motivation, about how the mind works. And recently, I did purchase a couple of books in regards to what drives us, what motivates us, what's the current future for businesses out there, and what millennials are looking for, in jobs and companies that they're looking at applying to. So again, we are in the last part of chapter 6, and the title is called "When They Don't Want You to Grow." And generally speaking, that title, "When They Don't Want You to Grow," we started off with best friends, uh, family members that, as you continue to grow in a positive way, some people are going to be resistant to that change. People are going to provide you with negativity, and this chapter is about overcoming that negativity, understanding that even if it means that you have to leave your best friend or may have to create some distance between you and your family member, that it's okay. Especially for your best friends, the part 2 of chapter 6, which you can check it out in 7 Pillars of Transformation on Facebook. It discusses Susan Jeffers is the author of the book that we're reading. I'll tell you the title of the book right now, but she points out that to think that your best friend or your friends that you hang out with can't find anyone else to hang out with, even if you're gone, you're not in that equation anymore, is silly to say. And we also talked about law of attraction, that the energy that you put out, the direction that you're going, whether positive or negative, will also attract those people within the group that you belong to. So again, the title for chapter 6 is "When They Don't Want You to Grow." Susan Jeffers, the book that she wrote is called "Fear." Feel the fear and do it anyway. It's a very popular book in regards to the subject of fear. Susan is a PhD in psychology and was also a professor, which she also taught fear for a while. So at this stage, before we begin, keep this in mind. You are not alone. You are not alone, and most importantly, one of the things that I continuously say in my videos, my episodes, is that you are enough. So no matter what you're going through, no matter how you look, no matter what financial status you are, or what you have in regards to materialistic things, those things are not important. What's important is what's inside you, knowing that you are unique, that you are special, and that you are enough. So the doors that you assumed are closed are actually open, but your mind tells you otherwise. And so I will discuss a little bit about the assumptions and stuff like that, but we're going to start our episode. And so what we're going to do is, and part of you're not alone is that when you are, if you have fear, if this is your first time here, if you have fear, one of the things that you can do is strive for something greater than yourself. And by doing that, your fear is diminished. The value, the energy that you've put onto this fear is no longer there anymore, and therefore it diminishes. And so the other part of it is doing something greater than yourself. That is the essence of purpose. And that is what we're here for in this world, I believe. That we're all here to provide content, provide support to people around the world, not just for ourselves, not to be selfish, but to be selfless, to be leaders in our community, and to provide motivation and encouragement and inspiration to everyone that we face. So Susan says that in order to continue on, one of the things that you have to do is that as you're moving towards a positive direction, she suggests that you either find a group, find friends that have the same energy, finding self-improvement classes, workshops, seminars. She points that you must make an effort. You must have action in order to progress. Otherwise, you won't progress. The same thing is when you work out, for instance. If you start working out, or for those that have the New Year's resolution, if you start off strong, going to the gym and working out, then after a while you stop, you lose that strength that you've generated as you went to the gym and worked out. And so this is the same thing. In order to progress, in order to move forward, you must have effort. You must take action. She adds that nothing is going to come to you, especially in the beginning. You have to go out and create the kind of support system that you want. So you have to make that effort in order to go forward. So in regards to assumption, I did present a challenge in part 2. And so I called it the assumption versus reality challenge. Simply go out there, challenge an assumption that you've had for a while, or that you presently have right now, and challenge it. See if the assumption is based on facts, or is it something that you've just conjured up. So we've had one response in regards to that challenge, and so I'll be mentioning that the result, how that person found if the assumption was real or not. I won't mention any names, but I will just I'll just point out if it is true or not in regards to what she responded. So the majority of the discussion in chapter 6 has been about dealing with best friends, family, in regards to when there's resistance, when they're pulling you back when you're moving forward in your life. But what about your spouse? What about your mate? We didn't touch on that last episode, but now we are talking a little bit more about your spouse, your mate. What happens when they turn their backs on your progress? Susan gives examples. In the last episode, there was an example of a woman and of a man. To find out how both turned out, check out part 2 of chapter 6. Susan points out, and this is very important. This is in regards to your mate, and this is what she states in quotes. Believe that your mate wants what is best for you, and that she or he will ultimately love the positive changes in you. So that's important. It's important that your mate believes and wants the best, and ultimately loves the positive changes in you. And now, because of the quote, this is in regards to some of the examples that she touches on in part 2, chapter 6. So we ended up talking towards the end of part 2 about the pendulum syndrome. And you can check out the diagram again in 7 Pillars of Transformation on Facebook. Unfortunately, because of my phone, it's every time I show something on my that's inside my book that's a diagram or an illustration, it kind of flips it. So it's I no longer am I trying to use my phone to do that. But for now, check out the diagram. I'll kind of illustrate it with my hands as best as I can to give you a simple illustration of what the pendulum syndrome is. And as always, guys, I can't stress this enough that if anything resonates with you, or if you feel that a friend of yours or a family member may be encouraged or inspired, please share this. Please share the content with everyone. So we're going to go ahead. It says, and also during this feedback, you're more than welcome to comment below with anything that you have questions on, or anything related to what you would want me to present in further episodes. Click like, and again, if you want to be in the live feed as well, you can. You're more than welcome to. So it's not only for me to enjoy, but also for you guys as well. So this last part is kind of short, but we'll begin. So before we begin, in regards to chapter 6, I have started a new part of this episode, which is I mentioned someone that is encouraging, inspiring to me, and probably to you guys too, and also provide you a quote as well. So the quote of the week is from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it reads, "If a man can write a better book or preach a better sermon, the world will make the path to his door." So I think what this means to me probably means as well as to you. You can comment below as well, that if you strive for better, not be better, but to be the best at what you do, whether it be writing or doing sermons, that has true meaning, has purpose, has this authenticness to it, the doors that were once closed are now open for you. So that's my take on that. Again, if you have another take, please comment below as well. I do check my comments after this episode is over, so please feel free. Don't be discouraged or shy to comment below. I do read the comments and I do respond to you guys right away. Okay. And now onto the person of interest, and this is probably someone that you've known. He's been around. He's a public figure. His name's Joel Osteen. He's a renowned author, a motivator, and a preacher. He's the pastor of the largest church in Houston called Lakewood Church, with weekly 50,000 attending his services every week, 10 million viewers in the U.S., and more watching in 100 countries where the program is broadcasted. But just like any story, success is not an overnight success. So here we go. It says Joel's journey started as he came back from college, when he came back to Houston to his father's church in Houston's north side. And for 17 years, that period of 17 years as he arrived to Houston, what he did is he would sit behind the camera. He would record and edit his father's sermons for television. However, his father had other aspirations for him. You see, his dad knew that Joel had a gift, and so he tried to convince him to preach at least one sermon. Every time they would talk, or the subject would be brought up, and every time Joel would decline. The truth was that Joel was an introvert. He preferred to be behind the scenes, as you recall, or as I mentioned, he would be behind the camera. He feared speaking in front of people, even if it was just doing announcements. He just had that fear. So he basically what we term stage fright, which a lot of us have, even I have sometimes. Sweaty palms, racing heart, fast breathing. This is something that I'm going through, not really, more like kind of nervousness a little bit, because in a couple of weeks I'll be doing my first public speaking event, and and I'm a little nervous. I have thoughts. I know I'm prepared for it, but the fact is that as it's getting closer and closer and closer to when I speak, it worries me even though I know that I can handle the situation. So this is something that Joel was having at this point in time. But something did happen. On January 17th, 1999, Joel's father's persistence paid off. According to Joel, he couldn't explain why, but he felt a calling. Though inspired, Joel's experience, as he said, the worst week of his life. And this is because of the same thing I just mentioned to you guys. The nervousness, the butterflies, the sleepless nights. You probably have all had those moments in your life. So this is what he had going on that week as he was going to present his first sermon. But unfortunately, the worst was not over. 5 days after his first sermon, John, his dad, was hospitalized, and then he passed away. Then 2 weeks later, Joel became the pastor of the Houston's Lakewood Church, which was his dad's church. And recall that Joel only had one sermon under his belt at that time. So you can imagine a large church his father built up, not only him, but the congregation that was with his father at the time. And now Joel has his dad passed the torch to him, and now he is the pastor of a church with only one sermon under his belt. Imagine that. It took Joel a period of 2 years to get comfortable doing sermons. And during that time, the congregation wasn't very easy to work with. They were pretty nasty, kind of very negative to him. And it was that congregation's negativity that led Joel down a downward spiral. And even though he was motivated to improve, he faced his biggest obstacle, himself. Not only himself, but the negativity within him, because of everyone that he thought would support him was actually not supporting him. So Joel had allowed negative words to control his confidence in himself. It took simple decisions to replace that negative word. And now that's an important word, a decision. Decisions, the word decision is an important thing in life. For example, you want to change jobs. It's a decision that you'll have to make to move on from your existing job to a new job. Or the same thing with growth, self-improvement, improving yourself. It's a decision that you have to make in order to move on, but it's a decision. If you make a choice, you're not going to go too far. But when you make a decision, that is concrete. That is something that will drive you and motivate you. But in the end, it is all, again, a choice of yours to decide how far you go with that progress. But decision is higher than choice. So decision is a very important word in the vocabulary. So where are we now? Yes. So it says here, but it took a simple decision to replace negative words, pain, with positive ones, power. So pain and power, is a Susan Jeffers talks about pain words, and power words. Pain words are words that you use that are, again, simply negative words that hinder you, that disable any part of you that wants to grow. And power is the opposite of that. Power is positive words that motivate you, encourage you to conquer those fears that you have. So those are two different words, but those are words that are very important in regards to improving or facing your fears or overcoming your fears. And because of that he began to reach his full potential as he made that decision, not a choice, but a decision to change the negative words to positive words. And the rest is history from there. So to summarize what is going on, or summarize what Joel Osteen did, is something that everyone thinks that it's an overnight success. Everyone thinks that, just like, any superstar that we see, overnight they're on TV, they're in movies, they're on TV shows, interviews, and so on and so forth. And you think, well, where did this guy come from, or where did she come from? It's an overnight success, but no one sees behind the scenes. No one sees that this person has worked tirelessly, worked very hard. As one thing that I mentioned, as I mentioned, that while people are sleeping, there are people that are up, that are educating themselves, that are training for the Olympics or whatever sport you're in. And so Joel Osteen success did not happen to him right away, as I just read you the story about him, short biography of him. But one of the things he learned is that he doubted himself. His dad knew that he had talents, and then it took a while for Joel to see that. Once he saw that, he knew that he had a calling. He knew that he had a responsibility, not only for himself, but for the church. Obviously, even though his dad gave him this responsibility, if he felt in his heart that it wasn't for him, or if he didn't feel that love or that passion or that joy, instead it felt like work, more than likely, it would have been another couple of years, but he probably would have left and found something else. But in this case, he didn't. So one of the things he does every time, according to the book that I've been reading that mentions him, is that before every sermon, before he goes up on stage, he practices 6 hours before. So you can only imagine how many times he repeats the sermon over and over and over again. So he's very prepared, and more importantly, he's disciplined. He understands that the success that he has for himself requires that he be disciplined, that he practices, that he does all that he can every sermon to present the best sermon that he can. All right, I'm back. All right, cool. So that's one of the things that the person of interest was Joel Osteen. And that's kind of a summary of what I wanted to mention about him. So moving along, we're going to go on to the episode of chapter 6. And as I mentioned before, we're talking about the pendulum syndrome. Susan states that as we're on this pendulum syndrome, we strive for a healthy life. And in the beginning, because we're starting off, we're always missing the healthy assertiveness part. So in the pendulum, the pendulum syndrome, you can imagine that there is this point here to this point here, and in the middle is the healthy part. So what she's stating is that in the beginning, as you're starting off, you're swinging back and forth. You're swinging, okay? You're swinging. And so as you're swinging, you end up missing the mark, which is the healthy part. So that's what she states here. From passivity to aggressiveness. Passivity is something that I tend to face at times where I'm very passive. And then at times I can be aggressive as well. That's kind of a common thing for a lot of us. That's one of the things that I face that I'm still working on. So again, we miss the mark as it swings from passivity to aggression. Many times before it settles into a healthy state. So this takes some time. It's not over a period of a week or so, but it takes time. The swinging of the syndrome is also called passive to obnoxious to healthy syndrome. That's another word. That's another way of calling it. The obnoxious stage can be recognized by these statements. And comment below if you've said these statements before. Here we go. The first one is, I don't need you. I never did. Or, you're calling me selfish. What about you? So those are some of the examples, some statements that as you're on the obnoxious stage, you will say or have said similar things to that. Lashing out for most of us leaves us wondering why. But sometimes we do it because it feels better than being a wimp or being passive. The feeling is understandable, and it is also part of the process since we're not yet sure of ourselves, and so we defend with all our might. Now again, this is in the beginning. So this is in the beginning stages of your growth. So she's saying that your pendulum syndrome, you're going back and forth in the beginning until you become more and more mature, and as you learn more and more, you start hitting the center mark, which is the healthy part. So we're talking about the obnoxious or the passive stage or the extremity of the pendulum syndrome. Personally, like I mentioned before, I always tend to swing to this side, especially during the fight or flight stage or when I'm in a situation like that. And does it end up in a positive way? Do I feel healthy? Do I feel strong after the situation is over? No, it's not. I feel drained at times because of all the energy that I've wasted. And so, if that's something that you guys typically do, it could be, again, that you're in that stage, that extremity, the passivity extreme side of the pendulum syndrome. We'll get to the other side in a little bit. So in regards to what I just mentioned too, part of why we swing so much is that because we're so sensitive. We're sensitive creatures, and any small little change can lead us to swing to one extremity to the other. And aggression. Now we're on the other side. Aggression. As it swings that way. Okay? This occurs when we hang on to our new behavior for dear life. Okay? Dear life. And fear is going back to passivity. So you can imagine as it swings to one side, you're holding on to the side so it doesn't go to the other extremity. And so this is what aggression means. It occurs when you're hanging on to a new behavior for dear life, and fear is going back to passivity. And every once in a while, when we get scared, it does swing back to a safe space, but not for too long. So as we swing back and forth on the pendulum, we learn new language of healthy assertiveness. This could be anything that is in regards to healthy behaviors. So as you start swinging, you do miss or hit that mark. You miss that mark, but as you hit it, you're learning new languages. You're learning how to manage either your passivity or your aggressiveness. So we go back from passivity to aggression many times before we settle to a healthy range. And as we become more comfortable in expressing our needs and doing what we have to do in the world, in the beginning, the pendulum syndrome is reality and a cause for confusion and discomfort, not only for us, but for others. So one of the things he mentioned, as you get more comfortable, you're expressing your needs more. This is something that I have dealt with for a very long time because of how I was raised, how my parents were. And so I've carried that habit with me. And so a lot of times I can be stubborn. And a lot of times, in the past, I've had a lot of resentment because for some reason, I just don't like to share things. I don't like to express how I feel. And so this is something that I've learned recently to do or try to overcome. And I have seen great improvements in my ability to speak. And not only what happened before that state, before I got to that point, was that I started to teach myself to be more positive, to respect myself more, to love myself more. Again, one of the words I mentioned is that you are enough. You are enough. And so teaching myself that over and over again has made me stronger as a person. And so because of that, I feel more comfortable and not afraid or afraid of someone rejecting me, because I know that I'm strong enough to handle any situation that may come. So that being said, That's one of the things that will happen as you become closer, as you get closer and closer to the healthy assertiveness on the pendulum syndrome. You become more comfortable expressing your needs. Now, as we go from this transformation, this healthy assertiveness, there will be many failures. And that being said, giving yourselves room to fail is incredibly important in your growth process. Now, I've touched on this a couple of times, but it's very important. This is how we grow, is by making mistakes. So don't feel resentful. Don't hate yourself for the mistakes that you do, because this is how you learn. Now, obviously, if you get to a point where you're doing these mistakes over and over again, and you kept telling yourself, yes, that I'll fix it the next time or the next day, that's not a good way to go. That's not a good direction. So just keep that in mind. That as you're growing in the process, fail as many times as you can, and there you will find success by understanding that those mistakes, you know where it goes, where it leads you, and you know right away that this is not where I want to be. So that's very important. So in our lives, we go through fearful behavioral stages, and as we do, we are constantly floundering around or drifting around until we get it right. The key here, and it's very important, the key here is awareness. Awareness. As you grow and start to take risks, again, failures, take risks, you're going to meet resistance from either family members, parents, from your children, people in your life. If it's not your other half, again, it can be a parent or a child or a friend. As Susan Jeffers puts it, when you rock the boat, someone will tell you to sit down. So just keep that in mind. Again, awareness. It is important to keep that word in mind when you meet this resistance. You shouldn't feel shocked or surprised by the disapproval. Oftentimes, they don't even know why they're doing it. You'll get that kind of, sometimes they don't even know why they're doing it. It could be that in their minds, they just feel justified, like for your own good type of thing. Not only should you be aware, but you should also acknowledge others when they support you. Let them feel that positivity that you have, especially when they're acting in a nurturing way. The result, you'll get the kind of reactions that you want. So one of the things that we just talked about is resistance from family members, people that we love. So here now they're flipping it around and saying, if your family members, if your friends are giving you positivity, don't push that away. Accept it. And so that's the kind of reactions that you would want. So just keep that in mind. So as you become more aware of the pendulum syndrome, the swing from passivity to aggression, it should become easier to handle the resistance from friends and family more easily. One win-win solution to stopping negative feedback is dialogue, speaking. Susan suggests that you look up books on assertiveness. It may help in cases like these. I'm going to give you an example. Here is an example of a win-win solution. So in this example, it is a mom and a daughter. So the mom starts off with this dialogue. You'll never make it out there on your own. The lose-lose dialogue says, mind your own business. I'll do as I please. So this is the daughter's response, or the son's response to the mom's first statement. That was a lose-lose dialogue. Now we're going to go to the win-win dialogue, and this states that thank you for your concern, Mom, but I have so much faith in myself. I know that whatever comes up, I'll handle it. I'd like you to have more faith in me too. It would really help me a lot. So that's the situation. Two examples. One example for the lose-lose dialogue and the win-win dialogue. So you can see the big difference there between both. And it says, at times our dialogue with the people we love doesn't always end up the way we want it to, and that's okay. The end goal, the best victory, is the one in which everyone wins. Win-win solutions. A book Susan suggests is called Aikido in Everyday Life. Again, a book that she mentions is Aikido in Everyday Life, that provides useful tools towards a win-win dialogue. So I haven't looked that book up, but if you guys want to, just check it up on Amazon, or see if you can get a free PDF on Google as you search. It says, yeah, you made it, Joey. It says, as we improve and manage our pendulum syndrome, the goal is to be centered. Again, as we're swinging back and forth, the idea is to try, as you grow, to get to the center. Healthy assertiveness. Not obviously you're not going to always be here, but if you can get to a point where you're there most of the time, or at least half the time, that's a good mark. But to be centered, you have to learn techniques to get there. To get to a place of balance and harmony, as you get close to a place of balance and harmony, your growth is like a child. Now, as a child, guess what happens? You get upset when others don't support you or support us. And when you're an adult, where any comment doesn't affect you. So there's two things. In the beginning, you're like a child. You get upset when someone gives you resistance or someone doesn't give you what you want. And then as you become an adult, when you grow and become mature as an adult, any comment that anyone says won't affect you. Maybe not much, but it won't affect you like if you were a child, you know. So that's two things. So in a sense, the need to please shows where you need to work on. As difficult as it is, cutting childlike relationships with others and substituting more responsible ones allows you to act much more lovingly toward the people in your life. A good way to practice this growth from child to adult is trying out on the ones that you love. So practice on that. Practice on the ones that you love. Simply acknowledge the reactions you have with others to see where you need to work on. It is through this practice of letting go of inappropriate reactions, that we develop responsible ways of behaving. So this is a good way to practice on the loved ones, or if your friends like that as well, then that's another option there. On the flip side, what if you can't reason with a loved one about the negative behaviors towards you? If you guys have any suggestions, comment below. One idea, again, this is on the flip side. What if you can't reason with a loved one about their negative behavior towards you? How would you handle that? Again, comment below. One idea is to create distance until you learn to handle the situation on a more mature level. Now, I know you're probably saying to yourself right now, why me? Why not them? Let me reword the statement. Let me know if this helps you in any way. To create a win-win situation where both you and the loved one see eye to eye on this important part of your life, you will have to find somewhere inside yourself the ability to find understanding, a compromise with the loved one. Most importantly, whether they take in what you say or not, it's okay. Remember, having a mindset of power, health, and positivity isn't for the weak at heart. Again, having a mindset of power, health, and positivity isn't for the weak of heart. But it takes a strong, mature, adult person to express their feelings and be okay wherever the chips fall. To summarize what we just covered, you are in control, always in control. Remember that. You are always in control of the situation. You can rewrite your story at any point in time. You are simply your best friend. Whatever you do, Don't put yourself down. Slowly discover your path to your heart. Now, just to recount that, don't put yourself down. Just remember what Joel Osteen had to go through when his congregation, first of all, started, throwing, nails at him or being negative about him being the pastor of the church, saying that he can never be like his dad. So that negativity took some time for Joel Osteen to overcome. But he did do that because he realized that he needed to in order to do his job, to do the best job that he could. So just remember that. Don't put yourself down. Slowly discover your path to your heart. That is very important, your path to your heart. Is it the path to your heart that will make you grow? And whether the loved one understands and respects you. Your new strength will break the unhealthy ties and establish new healthy ones. Now, in regards to this, in regards to the response, in regards to the challenge, the challenge about assumption and reality challenge. This was about fear of asking the questions. So that was the example that the response was. It was about fear of asking questions, and this was in regards to the challenge, assumptions versus reality. Those currently attending college at times will feel an overwhelming shyness and fear of asking questions in or outside of class or when someone asks you a question. The result of the challenge is that the fear may be very well a lack of confidence or self-esteem. And that isn't a bad thing or a rare disease that only a handful have. But it is a common fear among students, which included me when I was attending college. For this person, the dreadedness of being approached or approaching the professor decreased as the repeated action. So that is very important. As you repeat more and more and more the action that you fear, as you tackle and attack the fear that you have, it will become less and less fearful for you as you take action. So repeated the action resulting in more comfort, but more importantly, confidence. That's very important, confidence. And this is all, this all again is a decision that someone made to overcome, maybe not overcome, but at least lessen the fear. As always, keep in mind, most of what we face is what we feed ourselves or have grown to believe in truth, reality, with knowledge and with action. These false realities can be broken. The mind goes in the mind, guys, the mind is our greatest enemy. And knowing what the brain perceives, all that comes in and out, is important for your growth and overcoming the impoverished mindset. So I hope that this message brings hope and strength to everyone that watches this. And as always, guys, please share with your friends and family that can be impacted by this content. So you guys are arguing, you and Edward. So it says, yeah. Well, I'll read that question after this episode. But I thank you guys for everyone that was here attending and watching this video. And I'm trying to get to a point where I try to memorize these things, and it takes a lot of time. So I do appreciate you guys being here, and so thank you and God bless.